South Korea is seeing fresh signs of a demographic rebound, with the number of babies born in June hitting a 7-year high, driven in part by a continued recovery in marriages. Business sentiment in South Korea has climbed to a 4-year high, buoyed by strong semiconductor exports and a seasonal boost in consumer spending. Iran and Oman have agreed on a temporary shipping route through the Strait of Hormuz, but Tehran insists the waterway will not fully reopen until Washington honors its commitments under a previous MOU. The number of births in Korea hit a 7-year high in June, as a rebound in marriages helped drive the country's newborn count to its strongest first half in years. Our Baek Ju-hee begins our coverage tonight.
The number of births in South Korea rose for a 24th straight month in June, according to data released by the Ministry of Data and Statistics on Wednesday. Birth counts for June, the second quarter, and the first half of the year all hit 7-year highs, and June's year-on-year growth rate was the fastest since record-keeping began in 1981. The country recorded 23,111 babies born in June, up 15.6% from a year earlier. That's nearly 5,000 more babies than the same month just 2 years ago. This year has posted a double-digit year-on-year gain, from January's 11.9% jump to March's 19.5% surge, the sharpest of the year so far. Marriages also climbed 14% to 21,075 cases in June, extending a recovery that's been inconsistent month to month, with June now marking the strongest month of the first half of the year. An official from the Ministry of Data and Statistics attributed the rebound to a steady rise in marriages since the country moved past the pandemic in May 2023 and a growing population of women in their 30s. In the second quarter, the birth rate for women aged 30 to 34 rose to 82.1 per thousand women, up 11 points from a year earlier, which is the highest for that age group since 2019. For women 35 to 39, the rate climbed to 60.2, up 10.7, the best showing since 2015. But for women 24 and under, the birth rate slipped below the 2.0 mark for the first time since this data series began in 2015. The second quarter fertility rate, the average number of children a woman is expected to have in her lifetime, rose to 0.88, the highest for a second quarter since 2019. Asked whether the annual fertility rate could climb back above the 0.9 this year, the official was cautious, noting that in both 2024 and 2025, births came in higher in the second half of the year than the first. If that pattern repeats, the official said, it could have reached that mark, but it's still too early to say for sure. Still, the broader population picture remains a difficult one, as deaths continue to outnumber births, leaving the country's natural population change at negative 4,683 for the month. Baek Ju-hee, Arirang News.
Now, business sentiment here in Korea has hit its highest level in nearly 4 years, boosted by the semiconductor boom and a stronger summer consumption. Our Kim Bo-kyung reports.
Backed by semiconductor exports and increased consumption during the summer vacation season, Korea's overall corporate sentiment reached its highest level in nearly 4 years. According to the Bank of Korea's latest data released on Wednesday, the Composite Business Sentiment Index, or CBSI, for all industries stood at 99.6, up 1.1 points from the previous month. That marks the highest level since September 2022, when the index stood at 102, a 3-year and 11-month high. The CBSI is a composite indicator based on several major business sentiment indexes. With the long-term average set at 100, a reading above 100 indicates optimism, while below 100 indicates pessimism. The latest survey was conducted from August 10th to 18th, with responses from more than 3,100 companies. By sector, the manufacturing CBSI rose 0.6 points from the previous month to 103.8, largely driven by the semiconductor boom. The index has risen for 5 consecutive months since April, reaching its highest level since June 2022, when it stood at 107.1. Business sentiment improved among small and medium-sized enterprises, rising 2.2 points to 99.8, its highest level since June 2023. Meanwhile, it deteriorated among large corporations, falling 1.6 points to 103.7. According to an official at the central bank, this is partly due to a temporary seasonal effect, as large companies tend to have longer summer vacation periods than smaller companies. What's notable is the non-manufacturing CBSI that rose 1.5 points to 96.7, reversing a two-month decline that began in May. An official said the improvement was largely driven by increased demand for transportation and passenger services during the summer vacation season, as well as a recovery in the broadcasting, film, and broader services industries. For next month, businesses expect sentiment to improve further, with the CBSI outlook for September rising 3.1 points from the previous month's outlook. Manufacturing by 2 points to 102.5, while the non-manufacturing outlook up 3.9 points to 97.6. Kim Bo-kyung, Arirang News.
Food and dining out prices in Korea are soaring at a pace that is being felt by average households. Now, workers especially are feeling the pinch, with some popular cheap lunchtime staples increasing beyond the rate of inflation. Our Park Jun-han was out on the streets.
For people looking to grab something quick to eat on the go, kimbap is known for being filling and, most importantly, cheap.
But that reputation is changing. According to the Korea Consumer Agency, the average price of a single roll of kimbap in Seoul hit 3,869 won, or around $2.80 in July. That is a 6.8% jump from a year earlier, easily outpacing the country's inflation rate. So, when compared to Korea's minimum wage 10,321, the price of kimbap isn't really that low. Another popular food, samgyetang, a traditional chicken soup, is now over 18,000 won a bowl, almost double the nation's minimum hourly wage. This so-called lunchflation is being felt by workers.
Yeouido is known for having some of the highest lunch prices in Korea, so I think we feel the impact more than most people. When I need to have lunch, I try to eat at the company cafeteria as much as possible. And when buying something, I usually search for the lowest price I can find.
As food prices continue to climb, the purchasing power of cash in our wallets is steadily shrinking. And this leads to an increase in the share of household spending on food. In 2025, the proportion of household spending on food went up to 30.3%, crossing the 30% mark for the first time in 31 years. An expert pointed to two factors: the rise in prices relative to wages and consumers spending more on desserts and drinks.
Rising prices are largely driven by various external factors, such as higher raw material costs, so there will continue to be pressure on food prices. Since people cannot cut food spending indefinitely, they may have to eat out less often or choose cheaper options.
While it is impossible to control external factors, the government said it will continue expanding direct price discount programs for agricultural products and releasing government stockpiles to ease the burden on consumers. Park Jun-han, Arirang News.
President Lee Jae-myung has urged a strong policy drive to achieve balanced regional growth. Speaking at a meeting with the heads of local government on a Wednesday at the Blue House, he urged the need to address extreme concentration of resources in the capital area to achieve sustainable growth. He called for a one-team spirit with the local governments and asked for their support in the government's AI mega projects. Now, 15 representatives of municipal governments, including Seoul Mayor Oh Se-hoon, were present at the meeting. Korea's National Assembly passed more than 40 bills on Wednesday that had broad support across party lines, while shelving disputed real estate legislation for the regular session starting next month. The bills passed without major party opposition, following an agreement between floor leaders from the ruling Democratic Party and the main opposition People Power Party. Separately, lawmakers passed a resolution urging the expulsion of a PPP lawmaker over remarks seen as downplaying the 1980 Gwangju uprising, though most PPP members boycotted the vote. North Korea's Kim Jong-un has yet to respond to his American counterpart Donald Trump's olive branch. While here in South Korea, the term denuclearization continues to drive rampant speculation about a possible shift in policy. So where do we go from now as the world watches whether Trump will get another meeting with Kim Jong-un? Our Kim Do-yeon is in the studio for more on this. Good to have you with us, Do-yeon.
Good to be here.
So Do-yeon, Trump keeps hinting at talks while Pyongyang remains silent. Now, given North Korea's growing alignment with Russia, what are the realistic chances that Kim Jong-un actually engages in talks?
Right, and to start with this, we say this over and over for the past few days. Kim Jong-un is staying silent and offering no response at all to President Trump's continuous public overtures. Now, a major reason is that North Korea's strategic calculus has fundamentally changed because of its deep involvement in Russia's war in Ukraine. Unlike during Trump's first term, when Pyongyang urgently pursued bilateral diplomacy to break out of severe isolation, Kim Jong-un may no longer view a summit with Washington as a necessity at the moment. Now, through a comprehensive military partnership, supplying massive amounts of artillery, ballistic missiles, and even combat troops to aid Russia's invasion, Pyongyang has secured vital economic lifelines and military technology from Moscow. On top of that, the strategic reality on the ground has shifted. International organizations and research institutes now estimate North Korea possesses dozens of operational nuclear weapons. From Pyongyang's standpoint, traditional denuclearization may no longer even be an option on the table. Put together, because of this Russian lifeline and its advanced nuclear arsenal, Kim Jong-un's asking price to step forward and engage with Washington may simply be too high for the U.S. to accommodate.
And this raises concern that the U.S. might lower its bar just to get Kim Jong-un out to the talks. The term denuclearization was missing from the recent readout between the foreign ministers of Washington and Seoul. Now, how does Seoul plan to keep its three-stage denuclearization talks on the table?
Right, and when this whole thing started, at first, a lot of people were concerned because many considered that with the prolonged conflict with Iran, he might be viewing this meeting with Kim Jong-un as something he needs to do in order to gain political support ahead of November's midterm elections. But ultimately, Seoul's foreign ministry says denuclearization is the goal. Take a listen.
South Korea and the U.S. consistently uphold their shared goal of peace, stability, and denuclearization on the Korean Peninsula. Both allies are pursuing North Korea policy in close coordination, as discussed in the latest foreign ministers' call.
Experts also view the omission not as an abandonment of principles, but as a tactical adjustment to lower the threshold for talks.
With President Trump putting effort into a U.S.-North Korea summit, setting the right atmosphere between the South Korean and U.S. foreign ministers by adjusting how the North Korean denuclearization issue is discussed is a strategic approach. The U.S. message toward North Korea must remain consistent so we can anticipate whether Pyongyang will come to the negotiating table.
Now, demanding full denuclearization from the outset gives Pyongyang an easy pretext to boycott. This is why Seoul is advancing its three-stage roadmap: freeze, reduction, and dismantlement. First, a freeze halts nuclear testing and ICBM launches. Second, a reduction phase cuts warhead stockpiles and delivery systems. Finally, complete dismantlement will be realized alongside diplomatic normalization and a permanent peace regime. Ultimately, as a high-ranking unification ministry official once said, you can't reverse a car until it stops first.
Well, now there are concerns that Seoul could be bypassed during all this. With Pyongyang calling inter-Korean ties the two hostile states, what is Seoul's realistic strategy moving forward, Do-yeon?
Right, so no one really knows how it's going to unfold, but there's one strategy that Seoul has to maintain that is very clear. The Lee Jae-myung administration has been pushing the role of pacemaker to President Trump's peacemaker for some time now. In fact, a high-ranking unification ministry official recently told reporters that there is no realistic option right now but to push for a meeting between Washington and Pyongyang, with the inter-Korean relationship basically at a deadlock, making sure that this summit happens, unless the cost is too high, of course, is a simple pragmatic route Seoul wants to take. Additionally, the South Korea-U.S. bilateral relationship is highly complex right now, especially with ongoing tariff issues and a major announcement regarding Seoul's economic investments into the U.S. coming soon. So for now, it'll be about keeping good cooperative ties with Washington. And even if the talks ultimately fall through, taking this cooperative stance now may pave the way to build even stronger bilateral cooperation with Washington, as well as a solid trilateral one with Japan.
I see. Toyeon, thank you for the coverage. Appreciate it.
Thank you for good to be here.
And in related news, President Trump's recent overture to North Korea has raised questions over how closely Washington is coordinating with Seoul. A senior U.S. security expert says alliance diplomacy must come first, including a Trump-E summit. Oh Soo-young has more.
U.S. President Donald Trump should meet President Lee Jae-myung before sitting down again with North Korean leader Kim Jong-un and send Secretary of State Marco Rubio to Seoul immediately. That's according to the Vice Chairman of the America First Policy Institute and former White House National Security Council Chief of Staff Fred Fleitz speaking with Arirang News.
Secretary Rubio needs to go to South Korea immediately and speak with the South Korean government to understand the situation and the success in our bilateral relations and how we can cooperate in dealing with North Korea.
In a recent article, Fleitz set out steps Washington should take before re-engaging Pyongyang. This follows Trump's surprise decision to cut the Uji Freedom Shield joint exercise from 11 days to 5 and reduce field training, raising concern in Seoul and Washington over alliance coordination.
The president's decision to partially roll back the joint exercises was a surprise, but it's worth noting that the U.S. has done this before on at least 3 occasions: the George H.W. Bush, the Clinton, and the Trump administration, while negotiations with North Korea were underway. The challenge with North Korea is much more difficult than during Trump's first term because of this Kim-Putin relationship. So, there's a lot to do here, and I think consultations with our allies is the most important first step.
Fleitz's article also proposes appointing a dedicated North Korea envoy and strengthening coordination with Japan and other regional partners. He also raised the need to clear obstacles to cooperation in nuclear-powered submarines, civilian uranium enrichment, and spent fuel reprocessing.
We also have to send our secretaries of commerce and energy to South Korea because, we have some issues in trade and our energy negotiations. I think President Trump has to talk to the U.S. government to find out why aren't we doing more to get these relationships, getting these agreements through.
Addressing Trump's criticism of Seoul's non-participation in the Iran war, Fleitz contrasted South Korea's response with European allies that denied Washington access to bases.
South Korea under President Lee has an extraordinary record in cooperating with the United States on security and trade matters. And whatever concerns the president has with South Korea not getting involved in the war in Iran, and many of our allies didn't get involved, this extraordinary record, I think, covers South Korea quite well.
Amid concerns over alliance strains, Foreign Minister Choi Hyun and Secretary Rubio in a phone call on Monday agreed to coordinate closely on North Korea, tariffs, investments in security, and meet soon for further talks. Oh Soo-young, Arirang News.
As the conflict between the U.S. and Iran continues, Tehran has laid out conditions for reopening the Strait of Hormuz. An Sung-jin has the details.
Iran and Oman have agreed to open a temporary shipping route through the Strait of Hormuz. In a joint statement issued on Tuesday, the two countries said they would establish a temporary maritime corridor across the strategic waterway and work together to clear mines. This comes after Iranian and Omani foreign ministers held a meeting in Tehran. The two pledged to continue working-level negotiations on a permanent shipping route to foster a long-term system for managing maritime traffic. Also on Tuesday, Iran's deputy foreign minister told its state media IRIB that it will not take any steps to reopen the Strait of Hormuz unless the United States first adheres to a previous MOU. He also put forth 3 additional conditions: an end to fighting on all fronts, an end to the blockade, and a resolution to the situation in Yemen. The deputy minister also dismissed U.S. claims that mines had been cleared from the strait. These comments came after U.S. President Donald Trump stated on the same day through a social media post that the U.S. Navy had reported that all mines in the international waters of the Strait of Hormuz had been removed or detonated. Trump in the same post also noted that Iran has been notified that any vessel laying new mines will be immediately destroyed. U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio has told several allied foreign ministers that Washington will take a more cautious approach toward Iran by avoiding military action against Tehran for the time being, according to Axios citing U.S. officials. Meanwhile, Russia's state-run news agency RIA Novosti reported that Washington and Tehran had reached a ceasefire agreement that included free navigation through the Strait of Hormuz. The report, citing Pakistani military and Iranian security sources, said that the agreement could be announced within days, but provided no details and did not independently verify the claims. An Sung-jin, Arirang News.
Canada is hitting back at the U.S. with dollar-for-dollar retaliatory tariffs on some $20 billion worth of American goods, further escalating the trade fight between the two neighbors. Lee Seung-jae reports.
Canada is hitting back at the United States with a new round of retaliatory tariffs, escalating the trade fight between the two countries. Ottawa announced Tuesday that it will impose tariffs on about $20 billion worth of American goods, matching Washington's latest duties, dollar for dollar. The Canadian counter tariffs take effect on September 8th and will cover around 700 products with rates of 15%, 25%, and 50%.
Today I'm announcing that Canada will match the United States tariffs dollar for dollar, rate for rate. Effective September 8, Canada will impose counter tariffs of up to 15%, 25%, or 50% on $27.6 billion in imports from the United States of America. For each product, our tariff would match the American tariff on the same type of Canadian good.
The move comes after U.S. President Donald Trump's new 50% tariffs on about $20 billion worth of Canadian imports took effect on Saturday, following the collapse of trade talks. Canada says it will place 50% tariffs on products including steel, aluminum, furniture, and clothing. Cheese, appliances, and some seafood will face 25% duties, while electronics and tools will be hit with 15% tariffs. The measures cover goods accounting for nearly 4.5% of Canada's total imports from the United States. Canadian Industry Minister Melanie Joly says the tariffs are designed mainly to protect Canadian businesses and workers, while also increasing political pressure on Washington ahead of the November 3rd U.S. midterm elections. The Canadian government is also rolling out additional support for companies and workers affected by the widening trade dispute. Meanwhile, President Trump added another layer to the tensions Tuesday, saying his administration is considering changing the name of Lake Ontario to Lake America. In a post on Truth Social on Tuesday, Trump said the United States is giving serious consideration to the change because it does not expect to do much business with Ontario in the future. The comment echoes Trump's previous move to rename the Gulf of Mexico the Gulf of America. Lee Seung-jae, Arirang News.
The number of foreign students studying in Korea has surpassed 300,000 for the first time. According to the Ministry of Education on Wednesday, as of April this year, the number of international students enrolled in higher education institutions, including universities and graduate schools, surged more than 21% year-on-year to reach nearly 310,000. The growth was notable among Vietnamese students, accounting for approximately 32% of all international students here in Korea. It's also the first year the students from Vietnam have outnumbered those from China. An Arirang TV program has won the Korea Media and Communications Commission's Good Program of the Month award for July. The KCSC on Wednesday recognized the arts of pairing for its remarkable work. The program follows Italian chef Fabrizio Ferrari as he explores local ingredients and how they come together to create a complete Korean table. It was recognized for showcasing Korean food culture through a foreign chef's perspective, offering fresh insights to Korean viewers and highlighting its depth and originality to overseas audiences. Producer Song Mi-jin thanked the Arirang production team for their dedication throughout the program's creation.
With high humidity, it felt especially muggy and uncomfortable today. Across the Chungcheongdo provinces and areas farther south, heatwave warnings remain in effect in many places. Tropical night advisories are also in effect in many parts of the country, including Seoul. Tomorrow, rain and showers will move in. Along the south coastal areas of Gyeongsang-Namdo province, rainfall could total 80 millimeters or more. And scattered showers are in the forecast for Chungcheongdo and Gyeongsang-Bukdo provinces. As for temperatures, Seoul will start the day at 25 degrees Celsius, Daejeon 24 and Busan 26 degrees. Then by the afternoon, Seoul will get up to 31 degrees, while both Daegu and Gwangju will soar to 33 degrees. The heat will gradually start to ease toward the end of the week. Until then, make sure you're taking care of yourself and staying cool. Now here's a look at the weather around the world.
That is all we have for tonight. I'm Kim Dami. From all of us here at Arirang, thanks for watching and good night.